Bezos Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Menachos Daf Yud, number 10. And we're going to start from Daf Testament Beis, about like 8 lines from the bottom. Kometz Mismoil. So we learned yesterday, in the Mishnah, that the Kemitza has to be done with your right hand. And if it's done with the left hand, it's no good. So that's what the Mishnah said. The Mishnah said that. So now, okay, here we go. The Gemara says, Menahani Mili. How do I know that din to be true? That it has to be done with your right hand. So the Gemara says, Amar Abzera said, the Amakra, because the Pasuk says, Bayakriv es mincha vayamale kapay mimena, that by the Shivas Me'amalumim, they did a kemitza. It says the word kapay. They filled up his inside hand. Kaf zeh eini yadei amahu. I don't know which hand they did the kemitza. Kishu oimer, but when it says v'lokach hakoyim eloik Hashem v'yotzav al kaf hakoyim hasmolis, the Torah tells you by a mitzorah, and let me bring it up, the psukim of a mitzorah. The pasuk says that part of the service of after you bring a sheep for an asham, right? They also brought a loik shemen of oil, okay? And this is for the mitzorah. So they shechted the sheep and they brought it onto the mizbeach. Then they took from the blood of the asham and they put it on tnuch oizen, his right ear, on his right thumb, on his right finger. That's what the Chumash says. Then the Torah tells you, and this pasuk is what we're going to zero in on. They take a loig of oil and they pour it onto the left hand of another kohen. And so there's 2 kohanim. One kohen is now holding some oil in his left hand. Then the other kohen will dip his right finger into the left hand of the other kohen. So he dips his right finger, and what's he going to do with that oil? Well, he sprays that oil towards the curtain in the heichal, and then what's ever left over in that left hand, he dips it and it keeps putting it on his right ear, on the right finger, and the right thumb, and the place where they put the blood of the asher. Okay, so where does the kohen hold the oil? The Torah tells you he holds the oil in his left hand. So now we go back here. So the Torah tells you you hold the oil in your left hand. Kan simolis. Only in this situation is the mitzvah to be done in the left hand. Hakol malkom, in anywhere in the Torah, for example, kvitza, shenem akaf, where it says use your hand, eina ela yamin, it means use your right hand. Says the Gemara, maybe I need to tell you that only here it's done with your left hand. However, let's say maybe you can learn that kemitza is done both with your right hand and your left hand. Who says that it has to be done only with your right hand? And says the Gemara, smallest achriniksiv. It says another time twice, smallest. It said smallest twice. We saw the word smallest twice, as you can see on the screen. Pour it on your hand and you dip your right finger into your left hand, into the other kohen's left hand. You'll notice, by the way, it's going to say, the Torah is going to repeat itself by the poor man's mitzorah carbon. The Torah repeats itself, the same idea. He takes oil and puts it on the kohen puts oil on his left hand, and the other kohen dips his right finger into that left hand. So it says 4 times the word left hand. So now the Gemara says, the Gemara now only knows of 2 smallest, two times it says the word left hand. The Ema, let us say, maybe the Torah is telling you that left hand, that really, if the kohen put the oil in his right hand, is good, because 2 negatives bring about a positive. So it means that not only left hand, but you could do the mitzvah stuff in the right hand. And says the Gemara, smaller sachrin. It says another time the left hand. So maybe the Torah is telling you over here it's the left hand, and everywhere else is the right hand. Kan smallest, vein acha smallest. Nowhere else in Chumash are you supposed to use your left hand? Says the Gemara ve'ema. Let us say other Rabbah. Let's say just the opposite. Ma kan smolis. Just like by Mitzaira, you use your left hand. So that's the paradigm. That's the model. Afbi alma, in any other chumash situation where the Torah doesn't specify which hand you should use, nami smolis, use your left hand. So answers the Gemara, abba smolis ksive. You have 4 times the Torah tells you left hand by Mitzaira, trei ba'ani, 2 times by the, if you are a poor Mitzaira, utrei ba'asher, 2 times by a rich man's Mitzaira. And there the Torah emphasized left hand. So what the Torah is basically telling you, by Mitzaira is the unique din in the Torah where the Kohen uses his left hand. By a Kmitza, let's say, you use your right hand. And so, and that's how, and that's why it had to say 4 times the word smolis by Mitzaira. Now, the Gemara goes off, okay, once we're talking about Mitzaira, let's darshan, there is no Masechta Bavli on the Goyim. So the Gemara will go further and discuss the parsha there. Amalei Reb Yirmiyah Reb Zera. So Reb Yirmiyah said to Reb Zera, Al boyin yodai hayamanis, v'al boyin ragloi hayamanis. The Torah tells you that you're supposed to put it to put the oil on his right thumb and his right toe thumb. So now, why does the Torah tell you put it on your right thumb and the right toe thumb? The Torah told you already, put it where the blood is, and it already said that the blood is going on his right toe thumb and his right thumb. So, and the Torah just tells you, if you see the psukim, the Torah tells you, "V'nasan hakayim min Hashem and ashal kapa yatnuch oizen hamitaya mayamonis v'aboyin yodei hayamanis v'aboyin raglei hayamanis al makoyim dama asham." Put it where the blood of the asham is. Well, we already know that the blood of the asham. We already know that the blood of the asham was on the right hand. So why does the Torah repeat the word Yamanis 3 times by these places? That's the Gemara's question. Lamali, why does it have to tell you that? Haksivit already says Al Dama Asham. Go to the Daf Yud. Answers the Gemara. Chad, one of them is Lahachshit Sudadim, to tell you that if you didn't manage to put the oil on the top of the finger by the nail of the thumb, but you put it off to the side, it's kosher. Chad, and one of them it says lifsot sidei tzdadim, to passel that if you put it on the bottom of the thumb, it's no good. It has to be on the nail, or at least it could be off to the side, but not underneath. Al dama asham, al makoim dama asham lamayasu. Why does the Torah tell you al dama asham? It says it by an asher, and makoim dama asham. It says it put it where the blood of the asham. If you're already telling me that it's on the right side or the right fingers, you don't have to tell me it's where the blood is. So why does the Torah tell you put the oil where the blood is twice? One time it says put it on top of the blood. One time it says put it with a place where the blood is. Lamai asi. So the Gemara says, Hanitzrich, I need that. Because of Rachmona al dam ha'asham, if the Torah would have written, put it on top of the blood of the asham, havamina, isa'en, you put the oil only if there's blood there. Niskaneach, let's say the blood fell off and got rubbed off. Loi, don't put oil. Because of Rachmona al makoim, so the Torah tells you, put it with a place where the blood of the asham used to be. Because of Rachmona al makoim, if the Torah only wrote, put the oil at the place where the blood used to be, havamina, I would have thought dafkin is kaneach, only if the blood's not there. Because aval isa, if the blood is there, don't put oil there. Because the oil will never reach the thumb because there's blood underneath. Kamash malan al dam asham, you put the oil on top of the blood of the asham. So now the Gemara seemed to satisfy why it says boihin yadai, va'al boin ragloi, and al dama asham, al makoim dama asham. Boin yadai teaches you that it should be, you could put it anywhere on the thumb, and boin in one is telling you that boin ragloi, let's say, is telling you that if you put it underneath the thumb, it's no good. So it has to be on the nail or on the side. And now we know why it says al dama asham, al makoim dama asham. You put the oil on top of the blood. Even if there is no blood there, you'll still put the oil there. Now the Torah just now has to answer. The Gemara has to answer. Why does it say right side? Amma Rava ma'achad eksiv al damash. Now that you had to say put it where the blood is, and it had to say put it al boyan yadai. Why did it say yamanis, the right? It could have said boyan yadai, boyan raglai, right? Why does it have to say hayamanis, the ksivi that it's written b'shem and mitzayir ashavanani? Why does it write right side? Lamali, why does it have to write right side? So according to Rava, you have 3 times the Torah wrote right side. And Boyan Ragloi, the Torah wrote right side. Let's see, let's count it. Here, Yasa Hashem al Shakapa Yitan Akoyin, Tunuch Oizin Hamitayr Hayamonis, Val Boyan Yode Hayamonis, Val Boyan Ragloi Hayamonis. I didn't make that third Yamonis. So 3 times the Pasuk says, 3 times the Torah tells you Yamonis. Put it on the right side. Here we go. Right side. Right one. Now, I understand why the Torah had to write Al Dama Asham, and I understand why the Torah tells you put it by the ear, but why does the Torah have to tell you that it's right, right, right? So it teaches you, according to Rava, have a new source of called Gzeira Shava, of where you know that Kemitza has to be done with your right hand. Ella Amar Rava says you don't need smallest. According to Rava, you don't use smallest, the left side. Ella Amar Rava Yad the Kemitza. You have Gzeira Shava. It says Yad by Mitzayra, and it says Yad by Kemitza. It almost says Yad, but it's Kaf means Yad. The Kemitza, just like Mitzayra, it's Boyan Yodoi Hayamanis is right thumb. So Kemitza, it says the word hand. It also means use your right hand. Regel lechatzlitza. Now we'll use a Gzeira Shava. It says the word regel by Mitzayra, foot, and it says the foot by chalitza, even though, right, it says boyan ragloi, and it says the word by chalitza. By chalitza, when a woman wants to do chalitza on her yavam, she pulls off his shoe. Now, which shoe does she pull off? His right shoe. That's because you have a Gzeira Shava, regel to Mitzayra. Oizen ritzuya. It says by you drill the earlobe of an Eved that wants to stay, right? Eved Ivri that wants to stay past 6 years. Which ear do you use? Well, it says Oznai Hayamanis by Mitzayra, and it says ear by an Eved. So you darshan Gzeira Shava that the ritzia, the drilling, has to be in his right ear. So according to Rava, now I have another source. What's the source that Kemitza has to be done in the right hand? Simple. It's a Gzeira Shava. It says Yamanis, right hand, next to the word Yodai. Right? It says the word right, the right hand next to the word Yodai. From here we learn a Gzeira Shava, Yodai to Kapoi, that just like Mitzayra was right ear, right thumb, so also the Kemitza has to be done with right hand. If so the Gemara is going to ask, then why do you have to have small? There's 2 extra smalls. One of them, you have to tell me it has to be in the Kohen's left hand. That the Torah tells you, make sure the oil's in his left hand. But why does the Torah repeat it a second time? Small is ha'ashir l'may asi. What's the second time? By the Osher, Amarav Shisha Berei Davivi, Lifsel Yamin the Kohen the Mitzayra, Shaloi Taima, to passel the Yamin. It's just the opposite, that it's telling you it has to be only in his left hand. Because I would have thought that it could also be in his right hand. Ma b'mokom shloim nisra b'small, in places where the Torah did not allow you to use your left hand. For example, by Kemitza, nisra b'yamin, the Torah says use your right hand. Mokom shisra b'yismall, in a place where by the loig, the oil, to hold it, the Torah says you could hold it in your left hand. So certainly you could hold it in your right hand. So Kamash Malon smallest, no, the loig has to be held in dafka into your left hand. Now, the idich smallest yad v'regel the modest only lemay asa. In other words, it says smallest, it says left hand by an ani. Skip this yad regularly. The ani. When the Torah repeats the Mitzayra, it says vimdalhu, and we thought that it says 4 times the word smallest, right? It says smallest by the vimdalhu. right? Then you use two birds. You use a kevis for an asham, but then the Torah repeats and says, "V'neshaman yismalus and smallest." Why does the Torah repeat the word left again? So look at the Tanna Bei Rabbi Shmuel. Kol parshish nishnamar v'nishnas nishnoi nishnas ela b'dvil davar shenischadish ba. That sometimes the Chumash will repeat itself, even though there's no reason it should repeat the exact word left. It's not, but the Torah repeated the whole parsha of a poor Mitzayra to teach you a new din that the poor Mitzayra doesn't have to bring an animal; he can bring two birds, one for a chatas, one for a oila, two birds. So therefore, the Torah repeats the whole thing and repeated the word smallest. So again, Rava learned a Gezerah Shava. If you were to ask yourself, what's the source that the Kmitza has to be done with the right hand? Either because it says at extra times, 4 times it says the word left hand by Mitzayra. So the Mitzayra, the Loik Shemen, is held in the left hand, but everywhere else use your right hand. Or the simple way is Rava has a Gezerah Shava. Torah tells you put the blood and the oil directly on the right hand of the Mitzayra. So you have Gezerah Shava. Here it says right hand, and Kmitza, it says the word Yad. So Yad, Gezerah Shava, that the Kmitza should be done with the right hand. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Babachan, Amar Shimon Melakish, Kol Mokam Shenemer Etzba Ukuhuna Eina El Yamim. When the Torah wrote in a Chumash the word finger and the word Kayin, then it definitely means that you have to use your right hand. Like the Torah wrote, you need to have both psukim. Like say the Torah tells you by a korban chatas. The Torah tells you the kohen takes from the blood of the chatas with his finger. In this one pasuk, it says the word kohen, and it says finger. And the Gomer Mitzayra will have a learning from Mitzayra. But Taval HaKohen es etzba'oi, it's Hayamanis. By the Mitzayra, it says the word kohen, and it says the word etzba, and it means your right hand. So by korban chatas, where it says the word kohen and the word etzba, it means use your right hand, right finger. Says the Gemara, if that's a general rule, wherever it says the word kohen, it must say the word etzba in order for it to mean right hand. But by the word by kmitza, it says v'kamatz hakoyin. It doesn't say use your finger, and yet we know if the kmitza is done with the left hand, it's possible. So even the word koyin is enough to signify use your right hand. Rava said like this: the rule is oy etzba oy kuhuna. You're right. If it says etzba or if it says kuhuna, we know it means your right hand. So the Gemara is later on going to say, if that's the way you know, by kmitza needs to be the right hand, because it says v'kamatz hakoyin, and wherever it says the word koyin, it means right hand, then what do I need to Gezerah Shava Yad? The Gemara is going to ask that in a moment. But Amalei Abaya said, Harei halachas evarim, the ksiv beikuna, the ksiv behibikir v'koyin esakol amizbecha, v'omamar zu halachas evarim lekeves, utnan, a regel sheimim b'smoil, ubeis ar lechutz. By bringing the limbs to the ramp to be makriv on the mizbeach, the Torah tells you that a kohen brings it to the mizbeach, and he carried it with his left hand. He carried the head of the animal in his right hand and the foot in his left hand. What you told me that wherever it says the word kohen, he could only use his right hand, and here we see halacha can be done with the left hand. And says the Gemara, halacha is not a big, is not an avodah. Because even if you don't do haktara, the carbon is still kosher. Ki amrino yetzba kahuna. When do I say that the Torah needed right hand? When it says the word etzba kahuna, bedavar hama'akev kapara, something that is needed for the kapara, an avoida that makes the carbon kosher. So halacha is not as important as an avoida, and therefore it doesn't need right hand. Says the Gemara, v'ray kabbalah, catching the blood. As soon as you slaughter it, that's very, very important. It holds up the kapara. If you don't do Kabbalah, the carbon is possible. And the Torah tells you when you do Kabbalah, use a kohen. Catching the blood. Utnan kibul b'small pas. If you catch it with your left hand, it's possible because it says kohen. But Rab Shimon machshir. Rab Shimon says it's kosher. How could Rab Shimon say that it's kosher with your left hand? It says the word kohen. It says v'hikrivu b'nei Aharon ha'koyanim. that a kohen, and wherever you just told me that the rule of thumb is that whenever it says the word kohen, it means right hand. Answers the Gemara, Rab Shimon Kamret, you ask me a question, Rab Shimon Tarte boy. Rab Shimon says you need both. He holds that it has to have both, kohen and etzba in the pasuk. Kohen alone would not signify right hand. And if it just says kohen, you probably could use your left hand like Kabbalah Zadam. Says the Gemara, Mi boy Rab Shimon Tarte. In order to use your right hand, the Torah, does Rab Shimon require that it says the word kohen and etzba? Well, now we learned in the Mishnah. Well, Tanya, we learned in the Brisa. Rab Shimon oimet kol mokam shenemar bo yad ein elimin. If it just says yad hand, it means right hand. If it's the pasuk says espa, use your finger. Ein elimin, use your right hand. And he doesn't say you need kohen along with etzba. The Gemara says you're right. Etzba like bayakuna. If it says the word etzba, use your finger. That means right hand. Even if the Torah didn't use the word kohen. Kahuna baya etzba. Whenever the Torah uses the word kohen, then the Torah had to write etzba. So kuna naf would not signify right hand, only if the Torah wrote etzba. So then el kohen lamali. Then why did the Torah write the kriva b'nei harayin hakohenim as adam, that the blood should be caught by kohanim if it doesn't mean right hand? Because you're telling me that left hand is good to catch the blood. So the Gemara says, Bechihuna, it teaches you that the kohen has to wear a big day kohen. He can't catch the blood, wearing weekday clothing. But Ein Chanami, since it doesn't say the word etzba in that pasuk, obviously you're not catching it with your finger, so he's catching it in a keli. According to Shimon, it's enough. You could use your left hand. According to Chachamim, because the Torah said the word kohen, it means only right hand, and left hand is no good. So now we go to Amid Beis. The Torah wrote kohen. It says the pasuk right by Zrika v'zorak hakohen. It doesn't say finger. It doesn't say yad. Utna, we learned in a Mishnah, zorak b'smoil payasol. If you use your left hand to do the Zrika, right, and it's not kosher. But like Polig Rab Shimon. Rab Shimon said he doesn't argue. According to Rab Shimon, left hand should be good. Answers the Gemara, you're right. Amar Abaya explained, Polig Brisa. Rab Shimon does argue in the Brisa. The Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, Kibel b'small pasol, Rab Shimon machshir. If you caught the blood in your left hand, it's pasol. And Rab Shimon says it's kosher. Zorak b'small pasol, Rab Shimon machshir. Here, the Zrika. If it's done in your left hand, according to the Tanakama, it's pasol. Rab Shimon is machshir. Okay, so now back to the question that we spoke about earlier. So the Gemara is discussing now. You just told me that the general rule of thumb is that if it says the word kohen or that it says the word etzba, it means right hand. So by kamitza it says the kamatza kohen. It means it's the right hand. So then why do you need a gzera shava of yad yad? Rava had a gzera shava yad yad to teach you the right hand is for the kamitza. What do I need that? Mikahuna nafka, because we could learn it because it says the word kohen by comments, by kamitza. Answers the Gemara, chad l'koimitz, chad l'kiddush koimitz. From one pasuk, let's say from the kamatza kohen, you learn that the kamitza has to be done in the right hand. What about the putting the kamitza into another klisharis, as you can see in this picture? How do you know that has to be done with his right hand? That you learn from the other pasuk, from the Gzeir Shava Yad Yad. So the Gemara says like this: the Rab Shimon, the loybaya kiddush kaimis. According to Rab Shimon, you don't need kiddush kaimis. There's no such a thing. You don't have to do that second step. According to Rab Shimon, you don't have to put the mincha into a klisharis. That's Rab Shimon's opinion. And remember, Rab Shimon says you need both, right? It needs to have both the word kohen and the word etzba in order to mean right hand. Okay, now the Rab Shimon, according to some opinions, Rab Shimon says you do need kiddush kaimis. The Rab Shimon, the left is definitely kosher. So with the kiddush of the kaimitz, according to Rab Shimon. But yad derav lami. But the gezer shava, what do you need yad? In other words, Rab Shimon, according to Rab Shimon, he's going to have another source that kmitza has to be done with your right hand. He can't learn because it says v'kamatz hakoyin, because it doesn't say etzba in the pasuk. Rab Shimon says you need two. So, but Rab Shimon has another source where kmitza needs to be done in the right hand. Ila kmitza gufa alibid Rab Shimon. If you want to know why, according to Rab Shimon, the kmitza has to be done with your right hand, Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Chia nafke. He learns it from Rabbi Yehuda taught. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda b'rei Rabbi Chia. My time at Rab Shimon. What's the reason, Rab Shimon, that the kmitza has to be done with your right hand? The Amakra kodesh kakashim hi kekatas v'kashim. The Torah calls a mincha a chatas and an asham. Bala of the biyad. If you're going to use your hand, if you're going to do anything that you're doing with your hand related to a mincha, of the biyamin kechatas, you have to use your right hand because it's compared to a chatas. Bala of the bikli. But if you're going to use a keli, if you're going to put the kmitza in a keli, so then of the bismal ka'ashim, then you could put it into the keli, the kaddish, the kaimitz, with your left hand, like an ashim. But the bottom line is, if you're going to use your hand, the kmitza, it has to be done with your right hand because it's compared to a chat. So that's the source. Even Rav Shimon agrees that the kmitza has to be done with only your right hand. So if so, what did Rav Shimon do with the yad? Why do I need a gzeir shavi yad to mitzaira to teach you that the kmitza has to be done with your right hand? I have another source that the kmitza needs to be done with your right hand. Concludes the Gemara, lo nisracha, ela kaimitz the minchas chayta. The kmitza of a sinner, right? Because the mincha of a sinner doesn't have oil, doesn't have frankincense. I would have thought, it's important that the minchas chayte of a sinner's mincha should not be a beautiful carbon. So it doesn't have oil, it doesn't have frankincense. So I would have thought, I would think that you could do the kmitza of a minchas chayte with your left hand. That's why I need a separate gezer shava of yad kamash malam, that yad, that even a minchas chayte has to be done with your right hand, because I'll learn a gzeir shava of mincha to mitzaira, that just like mitzaira was with the right hand, right finger, so also the kmitza has to be done with the right hand. So we have sources now to teach us that the kmitza has to be done with the right hand. Bein l'Rab Shimon, bein l'Tanakama. Okay, gute Nacht.